What's up, everybody? This is Benito with Espirizo. Just showing you, giving you a little insight of another little, some shop action that we have going on. Wanted to make a quick video, some informational video of bed plate seals. Something that often gets mistaken for rear main seal leaks and upper oil pan leaks. It's very, very common for us to get phone calls with customers complaining of oil leaks and thinking that it's a rear main seal or an oil pan leak. But once we get them looked at or whatnot, it turns out to be something further than that. So one of the things is, what is a bed plate? So for you to get eyes on it, this part right here is your bed plate. Your bed plate bolts pretty much the crank to the block. It's what supports it. You have two styles of bed plate. This one does not have any 10 millimeter bolts on the sides, but you still have the big bolts down the center. The other one does have some along the side. That's about the only difference. Different year models have them. So the bed plate gasket is, you can come around over here. You have two gaskets. One is right there, and it runs all alongside the bed plate. And then you have one on this side, and it runs all alongside the bed plate. Now, just so that you can, right now we're looking at the 6.0 upside down, so don't get confused. You got to stick with me here, guys. So this right here is your oil pan, the lower oil pan, technical, and your upper oil pan. This right here bolts to the bed plate, and then obviously if the engine's flipped over, that's where it's at. That's where you pick up all your oil from. Now, where the leak is the most common is toward the back. As you can see right here, this right here starts to accumulate, and it starts running, as you can see, down the side, and it'll go all the way to the front. And you'll have that's why most of the time people think that it's an oil pan leaking or a rear main seal, because all of the oil will accumulate on the sides, and then it'll leak toward the bottom of the engine to the oil pan and toward the back. So people then start asking, well, how much is that repair? Well, it's pretty costly, obviously, because we have to pull the motor out to pull the bed plate. I have heard of guys try to do this in the cab. I don't ever try to be that good. I always pull it for a full inspection, torque everything down properly. I have seen guys with a 1/2 inch impact trying to tighten them back down. No, that is not the way you do it. Everything needs to be cleaned, prepped, and torqued down properly. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to pull this bed plate off, and we're going to show you the actual gasket that fails along with it. So let's get it done.
Diesel engine technology is constantly evolving, and our certified mechanics are just the pros you need to stay ahead. Our diagnostics equipment allows us to identify and repair problems to help increase your diesel's lifespan as well as fuel economy. We can also help breathe new life into those older engines. Find out more when we return.
All right, fellas, so we got the bed plate off. These are your two bed plate gaskets that run alongside both banks of the block. And this is what seals the bed plate that was here to the block. And then these are the most common oil leaks from the bottom on a 6.0, and the same thing applies for a 6.4 power stroke. Just to show you the bed plate by itself, we set it over here, excuse the mess, but this is your bed plate. Your bearings are on the bed plate, and then you have bearings underneath the crank over there. But yeah, so a lot of work involved to access these little bad boys. But we replace them. There's also a special gasket maker that we get from Ford that we put underneath the seal and over the seal before we set it into the block of the 6-liter and then start torquing down. As you can tell, these motors are pretty nasty, dirty, a lot of oil, a lot of stuff that we have to get out. So there's quite a bit of prep work involved. So it is a lot of man hours to prep the bottom of the block, to prep that bed plate seal to go back in, because we do not want to tear into this thing more than once. Yeah, there you have it. That's If anybody ever says the word bed plate to you, you got a bed plate oil leaking, that's what it all is involved. If you don't realize why there's so much labor, if a shop is charging you so much labor to pull it all apart, you know why. This one, obviously, you don't have to pull the heads off. We have the heads off because we're also going to be studying the heads on this thing. So this truck itself is getting a whole lot of extra stuff. But when we're in here, we can inspect the bearing journals. We can inspect the bearings on the bed plate. There's quite a bit of times that we pull that bed plate off and we inspect those bearings and we see copper down to the copper material on these bearings. And there's so much wear that we can't really tell during our normal diagnostics. But once we open it off, if there's a lot of wear and tear in here, we kind of stop where we're at and we advise the customer and to see which direction they want to go. It's all about communication. As our customers, you see what we see. So, but this one so far, everything looks pretty good. Obviously, our technician is going to get pretty in depth and cleaning everything and making sure everything looks good, prepping the head surface, prepping the blocks, upper and lowers, the front and rear, because the rear cover, front cover has to come off. So we're going to inspect the front cover assembly. I mean, there's a whole lot that gets looked at before we go back together. It is a very long process, and like I said, we don't want to do this twice. We only want to do it one time. We only want the customer to do it one time. So that's what that's what's involved when you have bed plate seals leaking on you. And if you have any further questions, I know I'm not getting any technical. There's a lot of information that I'm leaving out. There's a lot of technical stuff that I'm leaving out, but my videos that we make here are for the guys that are just simple, just trying to get some information. I'm not here to get too technical with anybody. I don't like to get into those types of matches with anybody. But if ever there's any questions that you need answers for that I didn't talk about, you can always message us on Instagram, Facebook, call the shop. I'm here just about every day, Monday through Friday, and I always try to make myself available to anyone to answer these questions that are more, be a little bit more technical. But my videos are just keeping it simple to the point so that the guy that doesn't understand the technical side of it can kind of get a better idea what a bed plate is, what does it involve, tearing down a motor to access a bed plate, what does it do, and why it's so expensive to repair. But thank you guys again for always showing us love and support. Look forward to talking to you guys on the next video.